Hey guys, my name's Kenny. I own Rise Up Rent to Rent. We have been coaching people now for years in all types of strategies, but in today's video we're going to go through your questions around rent to rent, social housing, supported living, tenant fines, sourcing fees, anything to do with social housing. Today we have 30 questions to go through. First one from Paul. This sounds too easy. What's the catch?
It's not easy.
It's not easy. That's the catch. It's not a get rich quick scheme, mate. It's very structured. You have to know what you're doing. There's compliance. It's a legitimate business. You have to work it. Nadia, what KPIs do providers care about most? I guess just return on investment.
I would say so. A lot of wanting to keep placements as well, not losing the packages that they have. With each service user, they'll have a care package attached to that, and that's where they make money. So making sure that they retain those care packages and they grow sustainably.
Yeah, nice. That's a good question, Nadia. Sam, do you need to furnish properties for providers?
Some providers want them to come furnished, but others would rather them come empty, and then they would put their own furniture in, depending on...
I think you've only done one, haven't you, where you had to help?
Yes, we did one that we had to do. Some of the others have come furnished, and then others they've done themselves. When they've got more extreme users, then sometimes they'll need more robust sort of furniture, so then they'll fund that for themselves.
Because I was kitting out on Airbnb, and usually Dan's business is very passive. Like, you find a property, you give it to the provider, and you wash your hands. So I think we were video noting or something. Yourself and James were actually putting together flat pack.
Oh,
I was so happy. I was so happy. Welcome to the real world.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the real world.
Yeah.
Amy, what documents do I need before speaking to landlords? Documents. You need to have your business set up and compliant. You need to have a provider on board. And so if they say, you know, well, how does this work? You can just say, well, I'm working with these providers. They're looking for your type of property, and then it's your job to sell the benefit.
Yeah, and you're going to need, well, you may want a NDA of some sort, or like a tenant fine fee sort of document. Obviously, you're going to want a lease as well if you're going down that route at certain stages, but you can source those things, or if you're on our mentorship, then it all comes included.
To you, yeah. Leon, how do you exit a deal if it stops working?
Yeah, so I guess if it stops working is kind of a broad term, but there are obviously protections in place, such as break clauses if you don't feel like that they're treating the property well, or, you know, they're not somebody that you no longer want to be doing business with, then you can exercise the break clause that you'll have with the provider on their side, and then also the landlord on your side.
Zara, how do referrals work in this space?
And typically that's done via word of mouth, right, and actually asking for referrals. So whether that's providers that you're asking for referrals from, or whether that's landlords, just a case of actually doing a good job of providing the service that you said you're going to provide, and then asking the question that you've seen how we operate now. You see that we run a very good business model. We've helped you grow, or we've helped place tenants in your property. Is there anybody else that you know of that may benefit from our service as well?
George, is this still working in 2026 with all the regulations? Yeah, because I still do it. Dan still does it. We're still teaching people who get results and do it. So yeah, it absolutely still works. And if regulations come in, so everyone back in 2023 thought Airbnb was dead because they brought in fire compliance. It's like, no, you just get compliant. So you just pivot when something else comes along. Okay, it's not look for red flags or any sort of hurdles. It's just you get over the hurdle by doing what they want you to do. It won't ever just boom come to an absolute end. Yeah. Megan, what's a realistic monthly profit per property?
But typically, you know, anywhere from, if you're doing a back-to-back lease, then 500 plus a month.
Victor, cool name. How do you structure JV agreements for social housing deals?
Depends on what the JV is. If that's you bringing a landlord and somebody else bringing a provider, or, you know, there's multiple different ways to do this. It's a bit of a vague question.
It is. It's broad. If you're JVing with another person structuring a deal, I would just get ChatGPT to write you up a business JV agreement. Just simple as that. If you're structuring a huge deal between multiple providers, councils and landlords, then get a solicitor involved. Absolutely. So it depends on the scale. If it's you and another person just going about this business, then use AI to draw you up an agreement, because ultimately you don't intend on breaking it. Nothing's really high risk or that advanced yet. Luke, how do you actually get paid a sourcing fee?
So you get paid a sourcing fee by initially, when you are showing a provider to a property, you would issue them an NDA or a sourcing agreement, or a combination of the two, whereby you would have your fee set out, and when that fee becomes due, which is typically upon signing the lease directly with the landlord, once that is agreed and signed, obviously, and the deal does come to complete, then you would just invoice the provider for your agreed fee.
Holly, what areas are best to start in? We've had questions like this before, and I've always said throughout the whole of the UK there's people needing care. Some areas will differ more than others, but it doesn't matter if you're in Cornwall or if you're in Newcastle. You're 1 hour drive from a provider needing help scaling their business. Reese, this just sounds like subletting, isn't it risky? So it's not subletting. Subletting is just a dirty word for illegally subletting a landlord's property. So if you're a tenant and you've rented a property or a room from a landlord on a tenant agreement, an AST agreement, and then you chuck that room on Airbnb because you're going on holiday for a month, that's subletting. What isn't subletting is the likes of us renting a property from a landlord under a business agreement. It's within that agreement that we are legally allowed to sublet. So sublet is just leasing something that you've leased, right? So you're renting something that you've rented. That's what subletting actually means. But as long as you structure it correctly and in line with the law, you're fine. So no, it's not risky. As long as you've done your correct due diligence on the front end before committing to a landlord's property, you know, be careful, guys, because you are playing. If you're just going to think, this sounds easy, I'll give it a go myself. Don't forget, you're risking messing with the landlord's investment, which isn't a nice thing to do. So don't make it a risk. It has to be, this will work based on this data, not the property looks perfect. No, judging by my calculator, I'm going to make £1,100 profit. Boom, you're going to let that landlord down. Fatima, how do you handle void periods if they occur? So with social housing, it's not really void periods.
No, there wouldn't be a void period because the provider is your tenant and they're obligated to pay you rent regardless of whether they've got voids or not.
Because they're not a tenant, they are a business and they're trying to scale their business, so it's not in their intention to let you down. This is from Josh. What's the difference between council contracts and private providers? It will have different arrangements. So typically when you're working with a council, that'll be more than often on a temporary accommodation basis. So there's a strategy called temporary accommodation where the council would rent your property on a nightly basis. But the downsides is they can invoke a break clause at any point and give you as little as 48 hours notice. So you can't really scale and have a systemized business based on that. This is why the only strategy we do not teach is temporary accommodation. So we work more with providers, and if we are working with councils, it's based on a longer term. Ella, do I need experience in care or support work?
No, you don't need any. Essentially, you're not providing any sort of care or anything like that, right? You'll need to understand, and you will come to understand how providers work, and by showing an interest in their business when you're trying to onboard them, right? You need to understand who they care for, the level of support they provide, and things like that. But you're not in this to become a care provider, right? You are essentially just an introducer, and your specialization is in sourcing the correct type of properties.
Dean, how do you build a pipeline of deals consistently? By having multiple relationships with providers, estate agents. I think you've got a WhatsApp group full of providers, and you create scarcity and urgency as well, don't you?
Yeah,
it's a good tactic. So Sophie, what's the best way to contact providers, email or phone?
Yeah, so I like to email first and then call them straight afterwards, because oftentimes when you ring them, they may say, oh, can you just send us an email? So yeah, they oftentimes will point you towards sending them an email, which you've already would have done, right? And you can say, yeah, I've actually already sent you an email. You know, who can I expect a response from, and roughly how long do you think that would take? Is there any way I can speak to them on the phone now?
Callum, how many calls should I be making a day?
At least 10.
I always think, get to Sunday and ask yourself a question. Would you have sacked yourself this week based on the effort that you've put out? Because a lot of people think they're doing a lot.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people don't track their data. I'm really hot on the mentees. Like, I need to see your data.
Yeah.
You say you haven't secured a deal yet. Okay, show me your data. I've not been tracking it. Okay, then I have no idea how to help you, because if you've been making 50 phone calls a week,
yeah,
and I'm like, okay, you should have definitely secured something, so show me your script. Okay, you've gone way off script.
Yeah,
that's why. And then I can correct you. But when they're like, I just haven't, okay, no, I've not been tracking my data. Have you made 3 phone calls a week? Have you made 60? Until you track your data and do the correct process using the correct tools, scripts, saying the right things, it's literally process, guys, right? You have to follow the process, and if you don't secure deals. Simple as that.
Yeah, you can feel like you're doing a lot of work because it's mentally taxing.
100%.
But you've actually, the input that you've actually put in is minimal. Like 10 calls can feel really stressful and like a lot of work to do, but then after you've done it 100 times, it's
10 calls is 20 minutes.
That's not a lot of time. It shouldn't be taking you hours to make 10 calls.
Yeah, follow the script. 1 phone call is minimal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Andre, what red flags should you look for in a provider?
So really crappy accounts, poor communication, loads of different changes on company's house of directors. Maybe the company name's changed a lot.
Failed credit check on lettings.
Yeah, fail credit checks. They're unable to provide any sort of landlord references. You know, communication is a huge one for me. Like, if they're crap at responding or slow to respond, like, I don't want to move forward and do business with people like that.
Yeah. Lauren, how do you negotiate rent with landlords to leave margin? That's a good question. Based on their pain points, are they willing to come down? Are they maxed out on their mortgage and they can't negotiate? They're wanting to rent out their property anyway, so if there isn't any room to negotiate down, then you charge them a tenant fine fee. If they're not willing to do that, well, if they're with an estate agent, that's possibly the case anyway. So it's just going down the options. Can I help you? Okay, you're not willing to do that. What about this? Not willing to do that. Okay, what about this? Okay, there's no room for me then.
Yeah.
Good luck renting your property out by yourself. Do you need a template? You know, you can get it from the Landlords Association website. They can do it themselves if they're completely maxed out, but there will be room. If they're willing to entertain a conversation with you, there will be room.
Yeah, it's finding out their pain points, isn't it? What matters more to them, the money or the security of something long term, and being hands off and maintenance being covered. Like, security is more important. You want somebody that's in there that's going to take care of your property. Well, that's great, we can provide that, but you know, it may come in slightly less than market value.
How much is peace of mind worth to a landlord?
Exactly that, yeah.
Pete, if this works so well, why isn't everyone doing it? Don't know, Pete. Everyone should be doing it. It got me out of my job. It got dozens of students out of their job. It got Dan out of his job. We spend a hell of a lot more time with our families. I'm at breakfast table every morning. I'm at the dinner table every evening with my kids.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I used to work double shifts.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think the reason why everyone's not doing it is because, well, it wouldn't be worth doing then anyway, would it?
No, they call entrepreneurship the 1% club, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
99% of people can't be bothered or just want an easy life, or what they think is an easy life is actually the hard life.
Yeah. You can romanticize something like this, but it's hard work and effort and consistency. So it's not for everyone. You need to be willing to work hard, and if you are, then you will get the rewards. Yeah,
it remains a dream if you don't do anything about it. It becomes a goal if you take action upon it, because then you have weekly targets. So you can call it a dream, and that's absolutely fine to keep it a dream.
Yeah.
If you want to make it reality, then you have to just take actions. Yasmin, what's the first £1,000 I should spend on? Compliance, business setup, and then go on my website, book a call with me and buy the mentorship. Rob, how do you systemize this to remove yourself? It's pretty passive anyway, isn't it?
It is very passive, yeah. I mean, the most that I really do on a day-to-day basis is if there's any maintenance issues, organising contractors. That's typically to the extent of the operations goes, but you can always offshoot that, and then obviously outreach, right? But we've got a VA in place that does the majority of our outreach now anyway. So, but then you could also pass off them organising the contractors as well. So it is very hands-off, don't get me wrong, but there are things that you could get a VA. You can get a VA for £3 an hour. Yeah, you don't want to put the control and the scale of your business in somebody else's hands this early on. Yeah. You can do when you're exceptionally established and bring on a full-time member of staff that you trust and you've trained and you're kind of with in the same office. If you're watching these videos, then you're a beginner. That's not the question to be asking. How do you remove yourself from the business? It's like, how do I build this business? Sharon, how long are typical contracts with providers? I would say 3, 5, you know, we've got students doing 10 years. Yeah, typically I push most of our mentees towards doing 3 to 5 years, because contractually that's a lot easier to do. When you're getting into the realms of 10 years, you're looking at a lot more complex, and you're going to need some involvement from a solicitor there. So sourcing those deals can be great. However, doing like a back-to-back lease on something like that, you'd be needing to get a solicitor involved. But keeping it simple, 3 to 5 years is a good range. You might not want to do rent-to-rent for 10 years. Yeah. So 10 years is a long time. 10 years is a long time. So if you can secure something for 3 to 5 years that you know you're going to have consistent income off of, that's a very nice sweet spot. Yeah. Bilal, how do you package deals for investors at scale? Have a team, have an office. Yeah. Again, like, you may be very well established. You possibly could have figured it out by getting a mentor, like a business mentor. So I would say if you're asking that question, you're trying to scale your business, then you need like a business mentor that will help you run ads, that will help you grow and pay team in terms of like the structure of the pay. We're not the people to ask. We're the people to help you build and scale a social housing, service accommodation, HMO business. But yeah, if you're asking that question, dude, then go and find a business mentor, specifically just in business, how to scale a business. We are teaching people how to scale a business, but in terms of just social housing, you need offices, staff, you need to be running ads
to get to landlords, you need virtual assistants, many different things.
Yeah, it's just how big are you ultimately, right?
How big do you want to get?
Exactly. What we're here to teach you on the mentorship, and what we do teach people, is how to leave employment and go, and be the owner of a business that they don't necessarily have to work in, they can work on.
Yeah. We're passionate about that as well.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to achieve, is people being able to leave employment, spend more time with their family, go on the holidays they want, have the disposable income that they want, and have their time back.
And see their face on a video call when they're calling me saying, I've got my first deal.
Yeah.
Those moments never die. Chloe, what should I say on my first landlord call? So if you're on a mentorship, you'll have a phone call flowchart. It's like a discovery phase, right? Why is your property still available? It looks perfect. How many viewings have you had? What was the previous tenants like? Are you open to working with a company? You don't scare them off by saying that. Just say, it's literally just me. I'm a very small business. We're looking to work with, and then go down your business model. But you still need to be sold on your business model. Don't just wing it on the phone call. Have a structured phone call flowchart. Matt, this sounds like another course seller model. You're right, Matt. Just here to sell your course, dude. Not trying to help or add value to the marketplace. Just go to the website, buy my course. And Mandy, what's the long-term exit strategies with these deals? So we were literally just having a conversation. So Dan is now thinking about going into, well, two avenues, either business buying, so buy an established business and kind of branch, still run his current business, or start his own social housing group, or partner with an established social housing business to grow and scale. So everyone's journey changes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mine changed, yours drastically changed.
Yeah.
Don't look so far down the line that you ignore everything in between. First 3 steps, that's it.
Yeah.
Choose one strategy that you want to use to become financially free, or replace an income, or whatever that first goal is.
Yeah.
Do that. The other strategies are not going to disappear. They will still be there. When you're at a different level, you can go and choose another one. It's not like you're set on this path for life. Your path is like this, with ups and downs as well as sideways.
And you can always sell your rent-to-rent business as well.
Yeah.
You can exit it, renew the leases, make sure they're all fresh, you've got the providers in place, the landlords are agreeing. You need to have or ask for permission to be able to assign it elsewhere, but we've had a mentee buy another mentee's business before, haven't we, in the group as well. So that's definitely possible. You can exit if you chose to do that after building up a business.
So this has been the 30 questions, guys. If you have any more questions, then send me a direct DM on Instagram and we will answer your question. I'll answer your question then and there immediately, but we'll also insert it into this video. So thanks for tuning in. See you next time.